today have been hybridized for extreme sweetness. And if you compare them to fruits of earlier years, you may find that they are quite sweet. And so once you start having this type of issues, it's a good idea to opt for fruits which are not naturally very sweet. Another thing is so you would need to avoid fruits like mangoes, bananas, pineapples, and melons. You can replace them with berries and avocados and such like fruits which are not so sweet. Then we also recommend you eliminate snacks and snacking and also opt for fats which are not highly processed. So now non-factory fats, it will be fats like ghee, it will be fats like olive oil. I know that one tends to be quite expensive. But I think if we are connected with some of the farmers in our countries, we'd be able to get ghee at a reasonable price. Also, other things like coconut oil, if you have it in your region, is also a good choice. So look at the fats that you're using for your cooking and make good choices. Okay, also reduce the number of times you eat per day. As we have said before, we need to give our system a break from digesting and absorbing food. So see if you can reduce your eating to maybe initially 3 meals a day without snacks, and maybe later on to 2 meals a day. And you can also look at your portion sizes, not to starve yourself, but to make sure that your system is not overloaded, especially with carbohydrates, because carbohydrates tend to be the cheapest food, especially here on our continent. And we might find that the majority of our food is in carbohydrates, which means we should choose good quality carbohydrates, which are minimally processed. I think we speak about quite a number of them. You can see things like whole grains, things like legumes are also a good choice. Carbohydrates such as maybe yams and arrowroots and so on. You keep them on the lower side, but really do avoid processed carbohydrates because these are quite problematic. Prioritize proteins as much as you are able to, and healthy fats from nuts and fruits like avocado. And also, we recommend eat only small amounts of carbohydrates, because you see carbohydrates eventually get digested and become sugar in our system. Of course, when it is not processed, it contains fiber, which slows down the rate at which the sugar they produce is absorbed. In addition to that, our supplements are going to be of great assistance. So what we'll recommend will be magnesium complex. We'll recommend botanical balance, because botanical balance helps the body to manage sugar metabolism. We recommend free NN as well as vitamin A plus D, more especially if you do not get enough sun exposure. So on to the next question, which was what to recommend for a child who is autistic. So autism, just to introduce, is a developmental disorder that manifests itself in various ways. It can manifest as impaired ability to communicate. It can also be repetitive behavior, and some autistic children also suffer from seizures. So it is thought to be linked to mitochondrial malfunction, but I think the research is still underway to see to pinpoint exactly what leads to it. But there are people who actually think it is linked to what is this thing? To vaccines. So we'll wait for the research, but just to be aware that this condition has increased a lot, a high amount now is turning up, including here on our continent. And so let us look at some lifestyle points for autism. So some of the foods may need to be eliminated completely from the diet. This would be problematic foods like dairy. It could also be wheat, and it could also be foods which have chemical additives. We also need to eliminate other items from the diet in order to minimize the toxin load, because people with autism have difficulty in neutralizing and eliminating toxins. So look at things like what you use for your home care. look at what you are using for your personal care, like for the child, and try to use things which are minimally problematic. I know, for example, in Kenya, there are many soaps that are available, but I think if, for instance, you want something quite cheap, is the original bar soap that we used to use. It's considered not very what should I say? Very upmarket, but it is actually a simple soap with no additives, no chemical additives. And that could be a good choice for a child who tends to have problems with their skin, or a child, or in situations where you want to really minimize your exposure. Of course, we have got our LDC, which can also be used for bathing and so on. And the good thing with LDC is that you can use it from the kitchen to the bathroom to all over the place. So look at the things that can increase the toxin load in the life of a child and the family, and then minimize that. Try to have the child to get used to eating a wide range of nutritious food. Sometimes children with autism have struggles with the different textures of food. They may find them unpleasant to eat. Let's see what you can do to ensure that they're getting a nutritious diet. Then incorporate activity and exercise in daily life, especially rhythmical movement. So rhythmical movement can be jumping, it can be playing on a trampoline and things like that, because it's found to somehow help them. So then what we will recommend here for young children, because there was no indication of the age of a child, we'll say for young children, we recommend VitaGuard and Vita Squares, as well as omega-3 plus minis, which are easier to swallow, and then vitamin A plus D, especially if the child does not get adequate sunlight. And vitamin D complex is important, but because it's a large tablet, you might need to cut it into maybe 3 pieces or even 4 pieces. And if that doesn't work, then maybe grind the pieces so that it is easier to give it to the child. For an older child, we can recommend Formula 4. We'll also recommend B complex, omega-3 plus, multimineral, and also beta guard. And the beta guard is in order to assist with neutralizing and eliminating toxins. As I said, they tend to struggle with this. And if the sun exposure is not enough, then also we would need to add vitamin A plus D. All right, the next question was someone wanted to know how to gain weight. Of course, usually our questions are about how to lose weight, but there are people who are under pressure to gain weight because they are naturally lean-bodied and tend to not gain weight easily. And the thing to note is that many of the common fattening foods tend to also be unhealthy. So for such a person, the temptation to eat fattening food can end in you actually acquiring some metabolic problems. So the main thing is to eat a healthy, nutritious diet, maybe eat more frequently, like maybe take healthy snacks in between meals, 3 meals, and then 2 or 3 healthy snacks added in there. Because also people who are on the leaner side tend to have a small appetite. So you might need to eat more frequently just to make sure that you are getting the extra calories that you need to store them some as fat. Then opt for rich foods such as avocado, healthy and processed carbs. Cook with plenty of healthy cooking fats, and also you can use our supplements to ensure you are getting enough proteins, because protein is what builds a healthy tissue, and that would be Neolife Shake, should be a part of your supplementation, as well as Pro Vitality, which will ensure that you're getting the basics of the nutrition that you need. So the main thing is to eat plenty. If you don't have a good appetite, then try to eat more frequently. And also to try also to accept yourself as you are, because being lean does not necessarily mean that you are unhealthy. It could be the way that you're built. So if you think about certain of the ethnicities here in Africa, they can be very lean people like the Maasai. tend to be very lean, and as soon as they start putting on weight, they also get certain lifestyle illnesses. So be aware of that. You could be looking to gain weight and instead gain an illness. So be careful how you increase your food consumption. Try to keep with the healthy foods mainly. Then a question about what to recommend for a heart attack. And also another question was what to recommend for atherosclerosis. So the two are related because atherosclerosis is when plaque deposits on the inner side of our blood vessels, making them narrow and making them also lose their flexibility. This means that some of the plaque that is in the blood vessel can break off and cause a blockage in the blood vessels supplying the heart muscle. And when those blood vessels are blocked, then remember we carry oxygen in the blood, and when the heart muscle cannot get oxygen, of course, it is going to end in a heart attack. So for that reason, we need to take care of both our heart health, and we had this topic last week, you'll recall. So to protect from a heart attack, we need to look at the health of our blood vessels themselves. So on the lifestyle side, we'll recommend incorporating movement in your lifestyle, because when we move, especially if we take a brisk walk or maybe a jog or a swim or some of these aerobic exercises, our heartbeat rises, and that means that the heart muscle itself is getting exercise and stronger and healthier. So incorporate movement in your lifestyle, select the type of movement that you enjoy and which you can keep on doing regularly. Then also resolve or manage stress. So if you have stressors in your life, then you need to see whether some of them can be resolved altogether. And those that cannot be resolved, see how you can manage them, because stress is another driver of heart attacks and other heart diseases. So on the supplement side, we are going to recommend coenzyme Q10, which helps with the heart, and then also omega-3 plus that help in cleaning up the blood vessels, together with lipotropic adjunct and garlic allium complex. So those four would be the recommendations: coenzyme Q10, omega-3 plus, lipotropic adjunct, and garlic allium complex. So just to be aware that when this atherosclerosis and heart issues become severe, you can end up needing bypass surgery. So before we reach that extreme point, if you have a familial tendency towards heart and blood issues, do take up those lifestyle points and the dietary habits and also the supplements that can help you to have healthy heart and blood. The next is quite related to them, and this is a stroke. So a stroke is similar to a heart attack. The only difference is that it occurs in the brain. So instead of the blockage being in the blood vessels that supply the heart muscle, it would be in blood vessels that supply the brain. So its origin can be clots which have been circulating in the body, like maybe the clot formed in the legs, and then it is moving about in the blood circulation. But when it reaches some small blood vessels in the brain, it can block them, and this can lead to damage to that blood vessel because the blood will still be trying to pass, and it can cause the blood vessels to crack open, and bleeding can occur in the brain. So a stroke can be quite damaging because it can affect certain parts of the brain that are responsible for doing different things. And that is why we normally see people who have had strokes may have some disabilities that occur as a result. So again, what we'll recommend will be the same as the previous question. And the supplements we'll recommend will be Pro Vitality. We'll recommend lipotropic adjunct, vitamin C, and either vitamin E or wheat germ oil. So the purpose of the vitamin E is to help to prevent future strokes, because once you have had one stroke, it increases the risk of getting another stroke. So the vitamin E is for that purpose. And of course, also it helps to have healthy blood as well as blood vessels. So once a stroke has occurred, there is not much that can be done because then it will run its course. But of course, as I've said, try to preempt this if you have a family history of these issues. Rather be proactive and start taking measures to mitigate against them. And then, of course, as I said, vitamin E can help the person who's already had a stroke to prevent a possible recurrence of a stroke in future. Another question in the same category is what to recommend for irregular heartbeat and heart failure. Remember what I said about this last week? Heart failure simply means that the heart is not beating efficiently, not that it has failed to actually beat, but it's not beating as strongly as it should in order to effectively pump blood throughout the body. An erratic heartbeat means that the heart is not beating regularly the way it should, or it might be slow, or it might be rapid, or it might alternate between the two. So there can be various things that are linked to this, including chronic high blood pressure. Also, if you have had a heart attack, then you can have issues further down the line. And of course, also if your blood vessels have become stiff and have become inflexible and narrow. So here again, we recommend Neolife products to help the heart as well as the blood. And this will be coenzyme Q10 to help the heart to function better. We'll also add there Provitality as well as magnesium complex. So the irregular heartbeat or arrhythmia, as probably you've heard it being called, is what can lead to a person needing a pacemaker. Because if you recall from last week, we say that there are a group of cells in the heart that govern the pace of the heartbeat, but they can become faulty, which means you might need artificial heart pacemakers. So for this reason, again, we try to be preemptive so that we will not end up needing these very serious types of intervention. Then the next question was what to recommend for someone who has water retention, which is also referred to as edema. So this is usually characterized with puffiness, especially of the ankle and the feet, the fingers. Sometimes it can also appear on the face, especially in the morning, and so on. So it can be due to different issues. It could be issues related to the heart, or it could be issues related to the kidney, or it could also be infections, and some parasites can also cause puffiness. So it can also be linked to systemic inflammation, because if our systems are inflamed, what the body tends to do is to retain water in order to try to ease up the inflammation. So supplements can only help if the water retention is lifestyle related. If it is related to other issues, like maybe some heart issue, like the heart is not functioning well, then it is good to have yourself checked so that we can see the actual origin of the water retention. But in general, some of the lifestyle recommendations will be include leg exercises to strengthen the leg muscles, because the leg muscles do an important role of helping to pump blood back to the heart. So our big muscles of our legs, the calves, are actually important in helping to push blood which has been pumped to our feet back to the heart. I think we mentioned this last week. Then also reduce sedentariness in the lifestyle. If you have a job that requires you to sit for prolonged periods, do get up from time to time, walk around for a few minutes every hour, so that you don't have blood pooling down in your legs from sitting for long periods, and also fluid pooling in your feet and your ankles and your legs. Then if you have picked up weights, then we recommend that you try to get your weight down to a healthier level. When you are sitting down, maybe at the end of the day, do elevate your legs so that the fluid which is accumulating in the feet can flow back towards the chest. If you know that you'll be sitting for a prolonged period, let's say you have a long flight or a long road journey where you'll be sitting for a long time, then use compression stockings on your legs. They are long socks that reach from up to the knee. And what they do is to help that the water and fluid does not accumulate in the legs. Okay. So in addition to that, we have supplements that we will recommend. Multimineral alfalfa will be one of them, together with vitamin B complex and coenzyme Q10, just in case the issue is related to the heart. Another question along the same lines is what to recommend for varicose veins. So varicose veins are swollen veins that might appear on the legs especially. So, sometimes you may have them in other body parts, but they especially appear on the legs. They are swollen veins that appear mainly on the leg. It tends to be familial, and this is because it can be due to weak veins, so the vein walls are not strong. And this can be exacerbated by a sedentary lifestyle as well as obesity. And as I said, you may tend to have a familial tendency in this direction. So lifestyle point for this will be, or just to say that it is not very easy to deal with varicose veins, which are already well developed for a long time. Those may need surgical removal if they are very big and problematic. So incorporate walking and other leg exercises in your lifestyle to strengthen the leg muscles and the valves in your leg veins. Also, as I said, if you're going to sit for a long time, use compression stockings to prevent the veins from bulging even more. And of course, avoid prolonged standing and sitting because it adds on the strain on the veins with the blood pooling there. Remember the blood from the legs that cannot rely on gravity. So blood coming from the head and the neck rely on gravity because gravity pulls that blood through the veins back to the heart. But the blood that has been pumped to the legs cannot flow back unless it's assisted either by the one-way valves that we mentioned before or by strong muscles in the legs which help to pump back the blood to the heart. So that is why if you have these things of either edema or varicose veins, or if you have a familial tendency, don't wait for the varicose veins to become very serious. Try to do exercises to strengthen your leg muscles. Leg massages can also help if you're a person who can take massages. And then the supplements we'll recommend are mainly to help with strengthening the veins, and this will be flavonoid complex. We recommend also multimineral alfalfa and omega-3 plus. This will only help for small, new varicose veins. The bigger, older varicose veins are not easily rectified without surgery. Then I had another question for someone asking what to recommend for an infant with sickle cell anemia. So again, we I think are aware of this because this is a fairly common condition on our continent. The lifestyle points will be ensure that the infant gets adequate fluid because hydration is very important for those with sickle cell. Also consult a doctor for pain management because it is a painful condition. Then you can add to their, and they may also have bad appetite, a poor appetite, which means that you may need to be more, let us say, more active in ensuring that they are getting as much to eat as they need for their growth, but also as well for repairing any tissues that are being damaged by the illness. So we can give Liquivite. We can also recommend Neolife shakes sprinkled on their food or drink, and we can also squeeze out omega-3 plus into their food or drink to help them with omega-3, which will help with to resolve the inflammation caused by the crisis that might come from the illness. Then bigger children, we can give Vita Squares, Vita Gas, and once again omega-3 plus, and a half dose of chelated zinc. because chelated zinc is quite useful for healing the damage that is done internally by cycling crisis. Neolife shake after a crisis or when the appetite is poor can also be useful in giving them nutrients to repair the damage done by the illness. For teenagers, we'll recommend vitamin B complex, chelated zinc, omega-3 plus, formula 4 plus. Remember, for these ones, we don't recommend supplements that have got iron. So we'll opt for formula 4 plus, and then Betagard and Neolife Shake after a crisis to help them to repair. Then the next question was what to recommend for general cardiovascular health. This, I think we mentioned this last week, but we can still go over it again. So this is simply to support yourself, especially if you have a familial history or someone in your family or there is a tendency, then it is better to be preemptive. And so eliminate junk food and refined carbohydrates from your diet, incorporate movement and exercise in your daily routine, and opt for healthy fats instead of the unhealthy fats that we commonly find. Then the supplements that you can use from time to time will be lipotropic adjunct, omega-3 plus, garlic allium complex. Maybe once in a while you can also use coenzyme Q10, but those four should form the cycle of your supplementation. In this case, the person did not have a specific issue. They just wanted to know what they can use for their cardiovascular health. And so, as I said, depending on your budget, you can simply be using these regularly, but it does not have to be like daily, because sometimes people think of the supplements as medication. Yes, they help you to recover from illnesses, but they are not dosed in the same way as medication. Think of them as a way of enriching your nutrition in your food. That way, ensuring that whatever you need is available. And that means, for example, if sometimes you're not able to take lipotropic adjunct, it is not going to mean that now you're about to get a heart attack. Not really. So just think of them as a way to take an insurance against a problem that might appear sometime in the future. Then a question about cataracts. So those are the grayish flecks that appear on the eyes, especially as we get older. Unfortunately, these are actually linked to sugar metabolism issues in some cases. And so eliminate sugar and minimize refined carbohydrates from your diet. Include plenty of colorful fruits and vegetables in your diet, and also opt for healthy fats from things like nuts and legumes and so on. Then we have excellent supplements for eye health, and that includes cataracts, and that will be carotenoid complex. Since this person already has cataracts, then they should be taking a high dose of carotenoid complex. They can also add their vitamin E and vitamin C. Then another question was what to recommend for an overactive thyroid gland, so hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism can also be an autoimmune condition, so it can be due to autoimmunity. And that means that the immune system is attacking the cells of the thyroid glands, thereby preventing the thyroid gland from producing the very important hormones that they're supposed to produce. So what we recommend on the lifestyle side will be avoid problematic foods. For example, dairy and wheat, especially if they tend to cause you problems. Also, stimulants such as caffeine should be avoided. Then try to resolve or manage stress because it can worsen the hyperthyroidism, and support the immune system. Whenever I talk about autoimmune illnesses, it means that the immune system is under stress and we should try to support it. And the best support you can give to the immune system is good gut health. So don't put things into your gut that are going to cause the gut to be agitated and problematic. So avoid foods that don't agree with you, avoid unhealthy foods, and opt for nutritious minimally processed foods, and also fermented foods from your culture also are important for our gut health. So by doing so, you'll also be supporting your immune system, because a large part of our immune system actually is in our gut. Then the supplement we'll recommend for hyperthyroidism will be Formula 4. We'll also recommend Cruciferous Plus, Magnesium Complex, and Omega 3 Plus. I will also add their lipotropic adjunct, because the person said that the medication they are taking for hyperthyroidism is pushing their blood pressure up. So look at maybe asking your doctor to adjust the dose, and take the lifestyle points to help yourself, and then also add the supplements in. And that way, with a three-pronged approach, you might find that you're able to have an easier time with hyperthyroidism. Okay, I think maybe this will be our last question for today. Someone wanted to know what to recommend with a child who has epilepsy. So epilepsy is a condition in which you have seizures. The seizures may be infrequent or frequent, but they are quite distressing. But just to say that once the seizure has taken place, there is no way of stopping it. The best thing to do is to ensure that the child is lying down in a safe place where they will not hit themselves on anything, and then wait for the seizure to run its course. It is distressing, but there really is nothing you can. Don't try to put things in their mouth and things like that. Once the seizure has started, just clear the area around the child, make sure that they're lying down, maybe on the floor, and they're not in danger of harming themselves as they are seizing. Then a helpful thing is actually a diet that is high in fat and very low in carbohydrates. This is referred to as a ketogenic diet. This diet was used before there was medication for seizures. It was actually used as a way of helping children with seizures. So remove carbohydrates as much as possible from their diet, replace it with healthy fats. And then also another thing that can be implicated in epilepsy is watching screens for a long time, maybe TV or cell phones or laptop screens, which have got flicker on it. This has also been implicated in increasing the frequency of the seizures. Unhealthy foods such as sugar should be minimized completely, because they can be problematic for someone whose system does not handle carbohydrates well. So then the supplements we'll recommend for the child will be Mind Enhancement Formula half dose, vitamin E. We also can recommend Vital Squares and VitaGuard. And for an older child, we'll recommend Mind Enhancement Formula also, or vitamin E. We can also recommend wheat germ oil. Wheat germ oil is quite a large capsule. That is why I don't put it in the recommendation for the small child. If you use wheat germ oil because wheat germ oil costs less, but if you're using it for a small child, then maybe you need to pierce it and squeeze out the oil. That vitamin E is a smaller capsule. They might be able to swallow it. Then we also recommend for the bigger child, omega-3 plus and magnesium complex. So I think we have gone through quite a number of questions for today. So for now, let me thank you very much for having spent the time and your data on our training for today. Of course, we are not yet finished, because Pascal is standing by to take you through the next part of today's session. Thank you very much. And we always appreciate you sending your comments and your questions, so that we can share this information with each other, enabling us to help ourselves and those who come to us for assistance. Thank you very much, team. Here is Pascal now.
Good evening, friends.